I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, and also the grand predecessor and predecessors, and for this opportunity to talk about this topic. It's well, in the Chinese it says 自命立命. I kind of translate it as know and fulfill our purpose in life. Okay, that we have a divine mission. Okay, so it's important to understand what is life about. Okay. Oh, okay. So what is life? Does anyone care to share what they think life is, what life is, what it's about?
Anyone want to share? What is life?
To fulfill our vows that we made in heaven.
Well, yeah. Well, okay, so life, I think a lot of people probably don't realize why they're really here. Most people, I would say, probably, you live a life, so, there are two sides to it, right? People say, they have free will, right? So people can do whatever they want. Life is great, right? They enjoy life. You can say they kind of look at things kind of more positively at life, and for the most part, life is good. Okay, and it's based on things are good. I have my choices I can make and to do things to enjoy life. Okay, so that's really only half the answer, right? The other half is from kind of a more fatalistic view about fate. It's like, whoa, this life sucks. I have a miserable life, right? So that's kind of negative side, that people who are suffering in the world, that for the most part, that's the life that they're living, and they have no enjoyment at all. And it seems like it's no matter what they do, they can't get out of that situation, right? So that is. You can say that's kind of, it seems like it's predestiny, or it's kind of fated that their life is like that. Actually, both sides, whether it's a good life or it's a miserable life, you can say it's kind of pre-fated or predestined. And that's due to, karma, what we call karma. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Okay, so, but basically, life is about survival, and is about just, trying to make the best of it, right? Now, the Buddha's view of life is that it's dukkha, it's suffering, okay? So it's, go through the process of birth, aging, illness, death. Dukkha in general means, suffering, affliction, dissatisfaction, you can say imperfection in life. Because obviously nothing in life is perfect, right? No one lives a perfect life. Right, we all have. Certainly, we all know we all born, right? We all get older. We all get sick sometimes, and eventually we all die. So that is kind of a universal truth that we can't escape that. Okay, and so from the Buddha's point of view, this is. Now you might say, well, okay. Besides that, though, life is pretty good, but. That's still a very short-term view, that we have a view of only this lifetime. Okay, this lifetime. From a Buddhist point of view, the Buddhist point of view is really the eternal point of view. From the eternal point of view, this is just one part of that journey. Okay, that we say, this life is just one, maybe 100 years, but you can say our soul, we talk about our Buddha nature, our true nature, is eternal, and therefore it lives through many lifetimes, okay? So if we say, well, this lifetime sucks, maybe past lifetime or future lifetimes, we have no guarantee that it'll be good, okay? So that's why it's suffering. And I think, in life, things are unpredictable, right? It's unpredictable in the sense that we don't know. We're not conscious of what's going to happen. We're not aware of what's going to happen to us tomorrow, okay, even, not, let alone talking about next year or 10 years from now. I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen in the next instant, all right? So that is the unpredictability of life. But of course, that's only because we're not aware of what's going to happen. But you can say things are already, a lot of things are predestined, and that's because due to karma again, all right? Okay, so the important thing here from Buddha's teaching is the Four Noble Truths, right? So the first and second Noble Truths, right? So that life is dukkha, it's suffering, it's affliction, it's unsatisfactory, okay? And that's the first Noble Truth. So understanding, and then the second one is dukkha is caused by our desires and attachments, okay? So remember, free will, right? When we follow our free will and we follow our desires and develop attachments, right? So free will causes that, what we call this karma, which is then leads to predestiny or fate in the next life, right? So they're interlinked. They're like two sides of the same coin, free will and fate. Okay, so it's not one or the other; it's both. But of course, it starts with free will. And so the dukkha is, the desires and attachments are actually, it's due to the external influences through our senses, okay? But once we bring it inside and it affects us, affects our heart and mind, that's what leads to desires and attachments. All right, so Buddha is saying that, it's through these that we create our own suffering, okay? It may not be necessarily right away, right? Because that process of that karmic reward or retribution happens at a time when the conditions are right. Okay, so what is life then? So life, if it's just dukkha, then you can say that life is kind of it's pretty meaningless, and people like kind of give up on life. What's the point, right? But really, life is living, not just living, okay, but there's a purpose to life, right? And we need to fulfill that purpose, so that's the mission, okay? So we need to understand that it's not just living or surviving, it's that we have a greater purpose in life, and we have to understand that purpose, what it is that we are here for. And then once we understand that, realize it, then we have to fulfill it, right? Questions? Okay. No. All right. So now in life, though, there's kind of like three aspects. Okay. So a lot of times people don't think about that. They say, I just have. Yeah, they talk about their physical life, but there's also maybe the spiritual nature. The soul. But really, okay, so you can kind of divide it into like three different kind of aspects of life, okay? So there's the divine life, which is we are all divine in nature, okay? Our essence is divine. It comes from God, all right? So what we call this, it's the Buddha nature, okay? And that is the life of, that's why you have people who live like a saint or a Buddha, okay? Or Jesus, that's the divine life, okay? So they realize that. And of course, they realize they have a mission, all right? But that is part of us, okay? So even though we may not realize it, let's say, I don't practice a religion, I don't believe in any God, still, there is that aspect, that divine aspect within all of us, all right? So we just haven't realized it yet. Then there's the karmic reward life. The karmic reward life is what we see, so the result of our past karma. So in life we can have good fortune, wealth, power, fame, status, all these things, and that is the result of the past karma. Okay, so of course things could be on the negative side of that too. It could be lack of these things, but basically that is, and this is the part that we generally talk about as being predestined, okay? So this is the predestined because it's determined by previous karma, what we did in previous lives that determined this. And this is kind of generally, we say it's kind of fate or predestiny that, it's hard to change that, although it is changeable, okay. Then there's the degenerate, depraved life, okay, so that's the life of vices and depravity. That is due, let's see, okay, so that's the result of, our temperament, right? The three poisons in Buddhism talk about three poisons: greed, anger, ignorance, right? Our desires and habits. These things all lead to this, down that path of a degenerate or depraved life, right? And so this is something that, in every human being can have all three of these. And it's a question of whether we focus on the divine life, and then we try to get rid of the depraved or degenerate life, right? And so that is something that we have to understand, okay, that we have those because of our desires and habits, right? Those things and our temperament. We have to, work on that. That's part of cultivation. The practice is to, we get rid of our bad temper, right? Try to let go of desires and habits in order to, because what this leads to, right? Then this leads to a bad karmic, consequence in a future life, right? It prevents us from essentially becoming like a saint or Buddha, okay? So this is kind of like the opposite of the divine life, right?
Any question on these three lives? We all have.
Yeah, it's just to varying different degrees, okay? Different degrees.
Those three.
Those are kind of the three aspects.
Then there, of course. You can say, in human, if you look at human society, human life, most of us fall in the middle.
Yeah, it's kind of like just,
Most,
Yeah.
in the States, but then there are, people in places like, Africa.
Yeah, then it's
whatever,
more extreme, you
where
can
they-
say.
yeah, with extreme poverty, extreme, hardship, or wars, whatever, So that would be the third, that would be the third level, right? So,
criminals.
yeah, or serial killers or whatever, stuff like that, robbers, thieves, stuff like that. That'd be the third.
Yeah, right. It's completely going against their
Gangsters,
conscience
whatever.
and,
But I
Right.
think we are still lucky, right? Especially we say we are in USA, turn around, we still have food on the table, right? Compared with people who are living different side of the world, they are suffering.
It's just different degrees.
Yeah.
That's all. Different
We
degrees.
are much better.
That's not to say there's no poor people in the US.
Yeah.
Of course there are, but different degrees. Just different degrees. So these are just general
Yeah.
categories.
Yeah.
General, category level.
right.
On
Yes.
the third one, I think we can change that.
Yeah, definitely.
We can change it. We can get rid of all those three
Yeah.
poisons,
Right.
right? People are greedy, right? Angers, or you can call it ignorance, or maybe stubborn, desires, and bad habits.
Right.
We can change those. Those will affect our faith, our life.
Right.
So once we start to get rid of those stuff, our life will change, will get better and better every day. And go ahead.
The desires, but which desires are like to do wrong, desires
Yeah,
to run.
Okay, it's not, it's desires maybe too broad, but actually, it's really cleaning or whatever we like or dislike. It's really both, okay? So we say desire, tends to desire must be something you like, right? You want. Actually, it also includes what we don't want.
Yeah, right.
So it's really both.
Yeah.
It's two sides of the same coin.
Right.
That is really, if you want to go more to technical detail, the technical translation is called cleaning and aversion. Right? Cleaning, that means you want to grab. You want something, right? You cling to something. You want to grab something. You can say desire. And then aversion, aversion is, right? Everybody know what
Avoid it.
aversion means you don't want it. You don't want it. You avoid, right? Okay? So it's both, right?
And the other thing is, human being, once we say, okay, desire, people say, okay, I got enough clothes to wear, I got enough shoes, I got a house.
Yeah.
Some people say, God damn, I got to get the best one, luxury machines. It kind of, we don't have the ability, but we kind of put a kind of hope and dream there push us to become greedy, those are Buddha nature, those are true heart. So it's kind of overdue. So human being, we try to balance in between, in the middle path, not overdo, okay? Because overdo, you're gonna pay for, right? You're gonna say, okay, I need more money, what happens? You're gonna overwork to get there. Then you're gonna suffer at the end. So try to take a middle path, stay in the middle path, don't overdo.
So that goes hand in hand with like greed and gluttony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that last one, that third one, kind of is the seed of that second one, the karmic. So planting the seeds of karma through that third life it leads to that second, what you get in the second life. Okay. So the second one. So if you want to change that second one, you definitely need to change that third one. Okay. So we got to stop doing those things and cut it off. And then so we don't plant the seeds of that karma, which lead to that second life. Okay, so that's how you kind of change it. I mean, it's hard to change that karmic life directly. All right, you have to change it from the source, which is that degenerate or that depraved life, right?
One thing, I just get back from Taiwan in Dharma class. Our holy Qigong teacher, the statue on the right hand side, the Qigong Buddha, he said that because human being, we have too many thoughts. So one thought is one seed of reincarnation. Because we have so many thoughts. Yeah, the seed. We plant the seed of reincarnation. So every day, he said, when we have nothing to do, don't just thinking too much every day. We sit there, our head is everywhere. Don't do that because we have too many thoughts and create the seeds of reincarnation. That's the problem we are human beings create by ourselves. So every day, when we have nothing to do, we always try to predict one. Get rid of all the affinity to not raise a single thought. So sit down. It's a little different from meditation. You can practice that every day. When we have time later, we can talk a little bit on that area. How to do that every day.
Okay. All right. So this is kind of like from the do you have a question? Oh.
Yeah, I was just wondering how does accepting your fate fit in here? You know, there's a Chinese saying like, you you're a Ming.
Okay.
How does that fit in here?
The karmic reward or the karmic retribution, that's what we call the fate. Okay, so we have to accept that because that's something that we planted the seeds of in the past lives. Okay, so we're just getting the result now, but it doesn't mean that of course, when we say accept, we accept that it's self-caused, that we created this before, and so we have no one else to blame, really. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to accept this lot in life. Okay, that we can try to change it. Okay, we can redirect. Yeah, we can. Yeah, so by doing more of the divine life, then that will offset. That can help change the course of the destiny. Okay, so. And historically, there's a Liao Fan, Mr. In the Ming Dynasty, this recorded in history, this person who, he sought a fortune teller, to tell him, what's going to happen in his life later on, and the fortune teller said, "Oh, you're going to be old and you're not going to have a child or whatever," and then all these things.
To also die at a certain age.
Yeah, right. That
His prime time.
Yeah. See, now these fortune tellers, it's not. I mean, they're accurate. Actually, they can be very accurate. Okay. It's just that we can also change our destiny.
That's why there's a free will.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah. So on the surface, don't view. A lot of people view. Or Buddhism, Buddhism or Buddhist philosophy is very fatalistic, which is kind of pessimistic. It's like, you're born poor. Well, too bad. That's your destiny. That's only half the story. That's really half. Okay, so that's kind of pessimistic. Actually, you do have the ability now. it varies. Right? Once again, right? There's the probability is maybe one for, let's say, a person born, let's say in, I don't know, Sudan or Somalia, maybe has a lesser probability, but does not mean he has zero probability. Okay, so just understand that there is still varying degrees of, you can say, free will or opportunity, you can say, to change. Okay, to change. It doesn't mean you have zero, unless you're actually born a vegetable. Okay, yeah, okay, then you probably have zero probabilities, unless you're that condition, right? But that's rare. I mean, that's generally rare, right? Makes sense?
Right.
Okay, so there is all three. Actually, we all have a choice. Actually, we all have a choice. So there is a free will component. Yes, basically, when we say karma or destiny, is that it's something that one is born into this world with. It's like saying you have, I'm used to. Example like a deck of cards. So you are dealt a certain,
Hand,
right? Whatever. But it doesn't mean that it's fixed. It means that hey, you can how you play it or how you change, exchange. So that's the free will component. You get it? So there is a combination of both.
One thing very interesting, when we were born, this lifetime, how much fortune, how much we can spend, kind of fixed. But through the cultivation, we can change their fate. Through the cultivation, do good things, help people, help living beings, we can change our fate. So sometimes you can pay attention to your, because fortune teller always tell you your fate. They can see our hands, they know what kind of fate we have. But you can see, once through cultivation, you can see those are changing. Good change. So it's interesting. You can see, pay attention yourself. You can see it's changing.
So the key is what is cultivation? Right? We have to learn what
yeah, right. Right.
That's another topic.
Yeah, okay.
It's-
Right, so, yeah, right, so,
Just one sentence. Holy teacher also mentioned that every day, whatever we have is a best arrangement from God and Buddha. Sometimes say, how can it happen to us? Right, happen to me. And Buddha said, that's the best arrangement from the God for all each of us. So we don't feel that way. Sometimes people suffering. People, how come why me, right? And Buddha said, no, that's the best arrangement from the God for you. Because they know you can pass the test, so they give to us. Because we are qualified for that test. So they give to us. If we are not qualified, they will not give to us. So, thank you.
yeah, okay. All right, so this is kind of like, you can say, the external view of the life in these three aspects. Now, if we look at the internal side, kind of the nature of life, right? There's the absolute, the relative, and the physical. Okay, so the absolute meaning true nature, right? So that's our divine aspect, or the essence. And in Christian terms, you'll say the soul, but it's more than just that. Okay, but what we call this Buddha nature, this true nature, or in Buddha term would be Tathagatagarbha Garbha. Okay, so that's like the seed of Buddhahood, the potential to become a Buddha, right? And so that aspect of us, this nature, this is the God-given nature that we have. So that's why we are all divine. So all sentient beings, all living beings have that nature. Okay, so that's why the Buddha or Jesus, all the saints and sages, they all talk about compassion, love, right? Because we have to respect all life because they all have that divine nature, right? So and within that, so we have what we call this Bodhi mind. The Bodhi mind is not our human conscious mind. Okay, so this is the mind of wisdom, the mind of the Buddha, and so we have to develop that. All right, we want to use that as opposed to, because our conscious mind is a mind of duality. Okay, that we mentioned earlier. It's likes and dislikes. Right, so that's a duality, and we have to kind of get away from that kind of thinking. To bring out this mind of wisdom, the Bodhi mind. All right, so that's the one it's non-dualistic. Right, so our conscience is part of that, and that is kind of guides us in life, letting us know what we should do, what we shouldn't do. All right, this other divine aspect of nature is also, you can think of it as the life force. Right, so it's like a mandate. It's from God because it's God given to us that you can say it's like a mandate to us that we have this life, we live this life, but that we have to know that there is a purpose. Okay, so that we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, so that's the highest, you can say, the nature of our life. Okay.
Yeah. So morality, when we say morality, ethics, ethical behavior, and then you filter down to etiquette, propriety, etc. Okay, it all flows. Actually, the highest level is not because of the law. Well, the law says you shouldn't kill. So that's what the law says. It's not really. That's only what we humans impose, we create. Okay. Actually, the highest level is like that conscience, that Buddha mind, Bodhi mind. Okay. That morality actually flows from there. Get it? Okay. Actually, it flows from there.
Yeah. Right. Okay, and then so in the relative, the internal nature, this is what we, like the spiritual aspect, the emotional, the mental aspect, which what we typically call the human nature. Okay, and it's basically, we have certain inner qualities, internal qualities, virtues, even our temperaments and attachments, things like that. The virtues actually, until they manifested, they're innate, they're part of us, okay? But things like temperament, our desires, attachments, habits, all these things, those are developed, okay? Those are acquired. Those are acquired as part of our human nature, okay? Being in this world, being in this I don't know, this chi, this realm of reality, duality, okay? That we kind of, those are due to the external influences that we start developing those habits and attachments and temperament. Okay, so this is kind of like the internal side of things. Okay, but this is what affects us in terms. This is related. These three related to the previous three that we talked about, the three lives. Okay, so the first one, the divine life, is related to that absolute nature, that true nature, the divine essence. Right, the karmic life is dependent on basically this relative nature, this internal. This is how we determine our karma. Okay, this is what determines our karma. And in that third one, the external nature, right, the physical aspect, this is also part of our human nature, you can say. It's a lot to do with the external circumstances. Okay, so this is kind of related to that third one and the other one, where basically all our desires, because of the conditions that affects our desires, habits, and attachments, right?
The first one, I think everyone, we all have the first one. First one is the same for every living being. Okay, that's Buddha nature is the same. The second one, we start different. Second and third are different from all the living beings.
Right. So that's why Buddha or Jesus they would treat all living beings equally, right? Teach them all the same because they see that absolute nature, that true nature, that divine essence that in all of us, okay, that we all living beings have that. And so in that sense, we are all equal. It's just that the other two are different depending on our karma, right, that we created. So everyone's condition in life, their situation, their status, it's all different. But that's all due to, what we've done previously.
Yeah, so some people say, some kids or some people are born just absolutely evil. Once born, turn out to be, serial killer or mass murderer or whatever. So people say, hey, isn't that intrinsic? Isn't that part of our absolute nature? People don't understand that, right? They don't understand.
Right. I mean, that again, that was acquired through previously, okay, in previous lifetimes. Okay, so it becomes, that's part of the temperament, you can say, part of the habits, the desires, those things, attachments, right? Those are, again, due to external influences. The absolute nature is not, the divine nature is always divine, it's always pure, okay? It does not get corrupted. It's the human nature that gets corrupted, okay? Yeah.
Okay, so just to make a remark, the opposite of what Lecture Kai just mentioned is people who are prodigies in certain areas, like they can play the piano at a very young age, or someone who can can, earn all the degrees, master, PhDs, even before they turn 20. So that's all accumulation. But they accumulate good, we say, blessings or fortune.
Yeah.
But even let's say people we deem as absolutely evil, it's we have to be careful when we throw around this term absolute. They're not really. I mean, you can't say something is absolute. Even let's use this for example, Hitler. He's pretty bad, right? He's pretty bad, right? But even Hitler, in certain moments in his private life, he still displayed signs of compassion too. So that just proves that that's human nature. All that we say that evil is relativistic. That's all relativistic. So it's not really his Buddha nature, right? It's just that his quote unquote evil or huge amounts of evil, covers up our Buddha nature or his Buddha nature. We can say his Buddha nature, okay? His conscience, okay? Whatever, all right? So what we see, the humans see, or history sees, is that human nature, that relative part, that he has evil mind, evil, all that stuff, okay? All right? But that's because the reason why, and people say, well, how do people sometimes have that? Just like you say, how come people are born prodigies? Right? Whatever. Okay? And it's because of karma that they accumulate, or it's the result or the seeds of that were planted in many, many previous lives, and so it's now born out in this life. Understand? Okay. So that's the causal.
Yeah. I mean, karma kind of works. It's kind of like a pendulum. So if we go to one extreme, let's say extreme evil, extreme good, kind of in a future life it swings the other way, and we end up kind of almost the opposite of what it was before. Okay, so that's I don't know. That's just kind of a technical thing about how karma kind of resolves, trying to balance things out. Okay, so but anyways, all right. So understand that we have these three aspects. This is a part of our life. Okay, so the three natures. We can certainly change our human nature to be more like that divine nature, okay? So the human nature can be good and it can be evil, or good and bad, right? So we can choose to make it more like the divine nature, the good side, if you will, right? Okay, all right, so what is the purpose in life then? So because now the secular view, of course, the common view is, pursue enjoyment, wealth, power, fame, all these things, right? All these material things, or even, enjoyment, right? That's emotional. I mean, that can be derived, of course, not just from external things, material things, but other like relationships with people, things like that. But that is, again, it's just this life, right? But the Awakened view, right, is that to recognize that we have karma, we create karma. And so we need to resolve our karma. So, all right. Ultimately, we need to awaken to that Buddha within, the Buddha nature, and to manifest our divine nature. Okay. So, otherwise, there's really no point now. Why do we have that divine nature? It is really to manifest that. Okay. So that you can say is really our purpose. Now, but to get there, we have karma, and karma can be kind of an obstacle for us to understand and to practice and to actually become enlightened, truly awakened. So we have to understand that first at a lower level. Understand, what is karma, how we create it, and how we can stop creating more karma, and not just that, but then to try to resolve whatever karma we already have. Okay, so those are important things that we have to understand. That so we can change our karmic fate, but we have to do certain things to do that. All right.
Here most people have karma there. Okay, but otherwise we will not be here. Okay, pretty much. But how awaken to the Buddha nature within ourselves? The other thing also, we need merit with no motive mind to create merit. So merit can offset fake karma. Okay. Okay, no matter how many big karma we have previous life, if we have married this lifetime, we can offset those big karmas. Okay, so let's see. But when we do try to accumulate the merits, we have to be no motive mindset to create those karmas.
Yeah, do it without desire, without some kind of ulterior or selfish motives, or just do it because you can say it's
virtuous.
the right thing. It's the
It's selfless. In other words, you can say
yeah,
selfless.
right.
Next one example. Okay. For example, we donate $5. Okay. Okay. On May 20th, we donate $5 last year. So we remember this $5 each day. In the future life, those $5 will come back to our lifetime. Okay, back to us. For example, in this lifetime, we have the money, we have the food. It was happened to us. So if we say, okay, I remember which day I donate $5. Those $5 will come back to us in the future life. Even this could be this lifetime. But if we say, okay, I do this $5, I don't even remember, I just do it, the right thing, I'm doing that. Those $5 equal to our virtues, okay, will become unlimited. Those $5 become unlimited without motive. So will be unlimited. In the future, will come back, it's unbelievable. We cannot even measure those impact of $5. So that's the difference. So we do good things, but when somebody want to almost kids are crossing the street by himself, we say, oh, it's too dangerous. We go there to help the kids. The moment help them to cross the street without thinking anything about it. So then marriage is more than anything else. Without thinking at all. Let's do it, the right thing for us to do. Thank you.
Right. Okay. All right. And then so then we understand. So remember, mentioned the Four Noble Truths. So then now the third and fourth Noble Truths, right? That we can end the suffering, the end the dukkha in life, okay, by practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, okay. So that's kind of the prescription from Buddha saying how we can, basically follow that, attain that divine life and not have that karmic life and the depraved life by following, kind of a set, it's pretty broad actually, a set of, instructions, if you will, teachings to the first one is the proper view understanding, which is the most important, to understand what life is about, understand, that it is, it's basically the Four Noble Truths, that there is suffering, there's dukkha in life, and that we can change that life. Okay, if we can choose to make that change. Okay, and then the rest of it, and how we change it is following the rest of the prescription here, right? So we have to have proper thoughts, proper intentions, right? Proper speech, proper actions. So how we conduct ourselves, what we say, right? How we live our lives, our occupation, put in the proper efforts into things in what we're doing, right? Proper mindfulness, awareness, right? And then finally, proper concentration. Well, it's not like, step by step, but this is like all.
Initially, you can.
Yeah, you can do it one at a time. But it's all of them.
Yeah.
Really, it's not like necessarily one after the other.
No, it's not sequential.
Yeah. But this is
See, that's cultivation.
Right. That's one way to cultivate. Yeah. Okay. So, we won't go into too much detail about this since there's other. We've talked about this in a different class before, but okay. So we have. All right. So that's the purpose. All right. So why do we need to know this purpose or our mission? Right. So again, our mission is basically we understand life. We understand that as a purpose, and we have to fulfill it. All right. So Confucius said, if we do not know our mission, we cannot become a superior or noble person. Right. So the noble person basically. He's talking about like you can say a saint or a sage. Someone of that's following or living that divine life. Awaken. Yeah, you can say like from the Buddha's term, the awakened person, right? They know that they have a mission, that they need to, they understand all of this, right? What life is about, and that there is a purpose, a higher purpose than, just pursuing a career or, pursuing whatever, power or fame or wealth, all these things. It's not just that. That's kind of the secular, the mundane life. But the divine life is something greater than that, and it's really selfless. Okay, it's a selfless motive, okay, that you can say it's for everyone. It's for the good of all. Right? It's not just for that personal good of oneself. Right? It's for the good of all. Right? Immortal Lee said, my life came about naturally, but apparently I'm responsible. It's not heaven. Okay, so that nature, our life, you can say that, like I mentioned earlier, we have that God-given nature, that divine nature. So it's given by God, but our life, our destiny is in our own hands. Okay, so we choose to do whatever we want with it. Okay, so I don't think that God wants us to go and take the path of depravity, go down that path of suffering. That's essentially going down the path of suffering, right? So, so that's why. So basically, our real purpose is to follow that divine nature. Okay, so only then can we change our destiny, right? Our karmic destiny. So it's important that we understand that, all right? So it's not, so we have to kind of take a bigger view of things, the broader view of things, instead of just the everyday, day-to-day, I get up in the morning, I go to work or I go to school, and then, I come back at home, and then I eat and I sleep, and then, the cycle repeats. That's not a very meaningful life. Okay, so what's really more meaningful is if we can do good, help others, right? When we help others, we are actually helping ourselves, and that's where we actually derive that inner joy. The inner joy, it's hard to describe when we, sometimes, we can be happy based on, the things that we have or, our situation, but that's not the same thing as when we actually do good and we help others without any kind of motivation. There's an inner joy in that.
Actually, there are two parts, two aspects. We say we do good, right? We do good to others, right? The golden rule, etc., right? That's the external side. There's also an internal component too, right? That's all covered under the general heading of the topic called cultivation, inner outer cultivation. But we also have to correct our bad habits, get rid of our bad habits. Okay, so that's it's both. It's two parts. There's an internal aspect and an external. That's part of the Eightfold Path. Right. Okay, so we have to do both. Right. Right? So you can do all the charity work, all the philanthropic work, but if you do not correct your bad temperament or bad habits yourself, that's still useless. That's at best good karmic reward. At best. Okay? And at best, you could become a celestial being. At best. Right. At worst, you could become a asura. Right? So
I think that's a good point here. Once you see that human beings, we have a temper, we have an emotion, right? Buddha always say in Chinese 6 words, I think. So it means get rid of our bad temper. Sometimes we are in a hurry, we rush. Buddha said, rush is also bad temper. Okay? Get rid of our bad temper. The other thing, get rid of our bad habits. Some people like maybe gambling or other bad habits. Once we start get rid of all those stuff, bad temper and bad habit, you can see the people's face, our face start to change. You can see the person are much very peace. You can see much in harmony situation. So you can pay attention to those people who are doing that every day. You can see they are changing. You can see their face, the way they look, start to change.
Yeah, because the internal side of things, if we cultivate essentially cultivate our virtues. Okay, so then that and get rid of the bad stuff. Then that affects the external, right? Okay, so. So in fulfilling, all right, so we want to fulfill our purpose, our mission, right? So Confucius said, what heaven confers is called nature, right? Accordance with this nature is called the way. Cultivating the way is called the practice, right? So, practicing, the practice is we start with practicing the Tao of, what we call the Tao of humanity, right? Fulfill all our duties, our responsibilities, obligations, do it with sincerity and virtue, okay? So, in life we wear many hats, different, roles that we play. We fulfill those roles properly and with we do it sincerely.
Parent.
Yeah, whether it's a parent or a child or etc. All these things. And so, and let's see, so basically by following those 8 virtues, right? So, filial piety, that's, with how we treat our parents, honoring our parents, respecting our parents, brotherhood, loyalty, trustworthiness, propriety, righteousness, integrity, sense of shame. Okay, so those are all, in everyday life, we will, be able to use all of those virtues. Okay. Those are based on what Confucius calls the 5 constants, right? So these are the 5 constant things that inherent qualities of our divine nature: the benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and sincerity, right? Sincerity is the most important. Mencius says sincerity is the way to heaven. So if we practice all those virtues, cultivate all those virtues, but without sincerity, then it's meaningless. Okay, so we have to be sincere. So basically, otherwise, it's just a show. It's just on the surface. Okay, superficial. So that's why sincerity is the most important. Sincerity is how we can, you can say, touch heaven. Okay, touch God with our sincerity. And the Tao it's like there's a reciprocity. This thing called reciprocity. It's almost like cause and effect. But through our sincerity, we touch heaven, and there's a response. Okay, so that is the most important thing that we have to remember is our sincerity. All right. So it's not necessarily what we are able to achieve. Okay, but if we are sincere in our efforts in trying to achieve something, a good that is more important. Okay. Okay. So Confucius also said, if all that heaven has produced and earth nourishes, the greatest is man. Heaven's purpose is contained in our nature. Right. So he's talking about that divine nature again. So the practice. So after we practice the Tao of humanity, which is basically living in society, how we treat other people. The Tao of heaven is to awaken ourselves and to help others become awakened. Okay, so that is more the higher path, the higher role. So how we do that, we need to learn and understand what this Tao is, our Buddha nature, this divine nature. Okay, we want to nurture our virtues and perform merits. Okay, so the nurturing the virtues is kind of the internal, and performing the merits is kind of the external. Okay, although the virtues and it's kind of related to the external too. And then the other thing is also propagating the Tao. So again, spreading the Tao, spreading this, the message, you can say the teachings, and also, have people actually, if they're willing to receive the Tao blessing okay, so that is what, you can say it's...
Well, that's, the propagate Tao means that you want to, what? It's not self, it's selfless.
Yeah, right.
Selflessness.
Help
it's
others.
An extension of this notion of selflessness that you want everybody to also achieve.
Right.
You get it? Not just yourself, because otherwise that's selfish, right? So you want to have everybody also achieve that. So that's this notion of selflessness. And also that's also an extension, you can say, at the highest level, that you see what? Everybody as the same. That Buddha nature. Not at the human nature level, but at the Buddha nature level.
Right. Yeah.
Whoever need a PowerPoint later on, I think can talk to the lecture Thai and then also Virginia or Johnny. See, we can send you the email to give you the PowerPoint. I know you're writing more detail, but if you need the PowerPoint, Yeah.
Okay, so right. So this is really our divine, what Confucius talks about, our divine heaven's purpose, our divine purpose in life. Okay, is to realize that to be essentially, that is the life of the saint or the Buddha. Okay, all right. So to fulfill our divine mission, right, we need to transform our human nature. So this is kind of like the internal aspect that we need to stop sowing the seeds of karma. Right. So recognize and eliminate our temperament. Recognize and break our habits, bad habits. Really, all habits because of our attachments. Okay, so we generally think of bad habits that we want to break, but really, habit is kind of an attachment. So we don't want to have any kind of attachment really. So recognize and correct our faults, right? The flip side of that is to see the good in others, right? We tend to typically look at other people's faults, and because they kind of stands out that we see someone doing something wrong or see that they have a bad habit, we point it out. But we need to look at the good in others, and we can learn. I mean, we can learn from whether it is bad or good, but always self-reflecting. So these all, this is kind of self-reflective, looking within and looking at ourselves, see what we need to correct within ourselves, how we can improve our own self. Okay, so and recognize and let go of our desires and attachments, our ego. So, in Buddhism, talk about the 4 images. We have to let go of those. The image of I, the image of the people, the image of the personality, the image of the life. Okay, so these 4 images, because those are all, it all stems from that ego, the I. Okay, so having that I, then we have that subject-object duality. So we have a duality already. So there's a separation. Say I am different from others, but we have to think that I am the same, that we are all equal, that we are all the same. We all have that essence. Okay, so we have to overcome that. All right, so our holy teacher said, Jigong Buddha, right? He says, if we can't control our mouth, then we cannot gain the respect of others, right? So if we cannot control our temper, we cannot change our fate, right? So again, if we want to change our karmic fate, our temperament is very important. We have to get rid of a bad temper. Okay, the bad temper will cause us to do things that we later regret. Okay, so same thing with our mouth. What we say, what comes out of our mouth is really very important. Okay, and if we can't control our mind, or our heart and mind, then we cannot transcend samsara, which is the cycle of this dukkha. Okay, this life and death cycle of suffering. Right, so this is all part of that internal cultivation. Okay.
Now, 3 sentences are very critical, very important.
Yeah, we have to, keep those in mind. That we need to bear that in mind as we practice. All right. So then once we can transform our human nature, then that's the inside. Then we can transform the external, the karmic side things. So resolve the existing karma, right? So we have to be grateful for our life and karma. Okay, so even though it may suck, it may be really miserable, but meeting it with, facing it with a grateful heart, appreciative heart and mind, that we can overcome it. Okay, so as opposed to if we are angry, right? If we are angry about it, then that will just perpetuate the karma. All right, so it's very important that we, the goal is to cut off that karma, to end it, to break that cycle. And so we have to, that's why, they all talk about love and brotherhood, right? It's love your enemy, right? So that is the reason, and forgiveness, right? So that is a way to cut it off, right? And then perform good deeds, kind good deeds and merits, right? So that's obviously performing merits will help us to be able to pay off some of our karmic debts. All right, so let me continue here. To transform our karmic fate, right? We need to perform merits, right? Besides what we just talked about earlier, the internal cultivation aspect, the external merits, right? And then nurture our virtues as well. So those virtues that we talked about, the 8 virtues. Let me see. All right. So let me see. Okay, so this is just one way to to look at how we should cultivate the Eightfold Path. All right, so don't necessarily have to follow this exactly, but it's a good guideline for us. So ultimately, to awaken to and to realize that the Buddha within, the Buddha nature, that divine nature, right? Be guided by our wisdom, the Bodhi mind and conscience. Okay, so we want to transform because our conscious mind is a mind of duality, and so we need to transform that into the mind of wisdom, the Bodhi mind, to avoid all the things that the teachings from the Buddhas, to get rid of those 4 images, the image of ego, self especially. Then we can get rid of the mind of duality. Okay, so that's very important, right? Ultimately, from that we manifest the 4 immeasurable minds, right? Loving kindness, mercy, inner joy, equanimity. Okay, so this is what technically, what a Buddha or Bodhisattva, they would have these 4, these mind that are, I guess it's a mindset qualities, of how they view the world, how they view all living beings, and how they treat them. Okay, so that's something that we can learn. Okay, to do. If we want to become a saint, a Buddha, then we definitely need to manifest those. And so to sacrifice and dedicate oneself for the good of all. So being selfless. Sacrifice, sometimes we hear the word sacrifice and we're afraid of that, but no, it doesn't mean to sacrifice your life, but making little sacrifices, like giving up some time to help others, or giving up some time to come to the temple to learn, right? All these things, those are little sacrifices, but, if we want to do more, we can do more, okay? And then really dedicate ourselves if we want to do that. The more we put into it, the more we get out of it. That's really that's kind of a cliche, but that's true, all right?
Only to just say that if we give up 30%, it will compensate the other 70% for us. So we only pay 30%. Buddha should give us the other 70% out for the other 100%. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Again, it's our sincerity is very important in that. The more sincere we are, the more we get back, right? So if we're not sincere, we're just going through some motions, then, we're probably not going to see the result that we're expecting. Okay, so again, we do things with sincerity. Okay, so and then finally, we attain Buddhahood, right? That's what we call returning to the absolute heaven, right? The Dharmadhatu. Okay, so first, we attain liberation, right, from the suffering, the dukkha in this world. We transcend the cycle of life and death. Basically achieving, nirvana. Ultimately, we want to become a Buddha, which is achieve the highest awakening, right? The Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. But that's not easy to do, of course. But it takes a lot of practice to get there. And we return to the absolute reality, the Dharmadhatu. That's what we call the absolute heaven. Okay, so that's our goal. Okay, so really. Maybe that's kind of far removed, but we do it step by step from the Tao of humanity, how we live our lives, as a human being, how we treat, we manifest our humanity, right, and how we deal with others, how we deal with everything in life. Okay, so we start from that. Those are kind of like the more practical steps. What Confucius talks about, all right, a lot. Is talking about that, and it really starts from there, right? Because that's kind of like developing our inner virtues, and then so eventually, then we can step up to kind of do more and sacrifice and dedication towards for helping others. Okay, so basically we have that mission. All right, so the choice is ours, right? We can choose nirvana or samsara, right? Most people choose samsara. they're not enlightened, they're not awakened, and they choose the path of continuing the cycle of suffering, the dukkha. They might think that this life is good, and so they don't want to go, give up anything, right? To go to the divine life, and so, but the seeds that they're planting today are going to result in the karmic life in the future. So, so the path less taken is the path of nirvana, right? To transcend all that suffering, the divine life. Okay, so so we have to recognize that we do have a divine mission. It's to return, to go back to God. You can say, that's one way to say it, and it's important that we recognize that. If we don't recognize it, so that's why we have to know our purpose, know our mission. Right? If we don't know it, then we're not going to go back. That's, so again, this is up to, we all have that free will. We can choose which way to go. Hopefully we choose the right way, which is the path that, few people are taking, but that is really the best way. Okay, so any questions?
Any questions? Especially from you people. I think this is it new for you or understandable? Yeah? Okay. Hey,
Sorry.
go ahead.
It goes back to when we were talking
Louder,
about.
please.
I'm sorry. It goes back to when we were speaking about if we're born in Somalia or Africa, like our chance is very, very slim, or if we're born a vegetable. I had met a gentleman in Miami, and he has a daughter that was born a vegetable, and she's only eaten through her umbilical cord, through her navel, like since she's maybe like 6 years old. But just a vegetable, and they inject through the cord and everything. So I said, oh, in New York, I know somebody. And so they came, he and his wife flew with the child, brought her from Brazil all the way to New York, and I took her to this gentleman where the gentleman did some energy work on her. And the father was at the end of the table, like by her feet. The mother and I were next to her. And the child, after one session, started to move her head and talk and wave and smile and making voice and say, and like so happy, so awakened. And the father's face, the mother and I were so happy, and the father got so angry that he said, no more, you wouldn't let her. Because it turns out he has this big organization in Brazil, and he looks after the children that are like this. But instead of realizing he could make a change and have a chance to help others, he wanted to keep his position in his company. And so sometimes there is that chance, and it was right there in front of us, and we saw it happen, and it was, So the chance is slim, but it can happen, and it happens. But we just, I guess, it's good that we have this community so that we all can awaken, with each other. Because if not, if we're alone, it could be sabotaged, I think.
Yeah. So for selfish reasons, basically, he didn't want
Her to awaken, and she did. But then, she moved down.
Okay.
There's one thing, sorry, excuse me, there's one thing I need to clarify. When you are attaining Buddhahood, what's the essence between Buddha and Bodhisattva? I know Buddha is the highest,
I mean, the Buddha, attaining Buddhahood, right, becoming a Buddha, that's like the highest level, okay? So that's achieving that ultimate enlightenment, awakening, okay? You become, it's just one with nature, one with God, okay? So oneness, okay? So a bodhisattva is still on the path to get there, okay? Now the bodhisattva can say, they're not really, they haven't fully achieved that yet, okay? And then, but they dedicate themselves to come to this world to help others, to, as part of, that's part of the path to becoming a Buddha, is that we have to help others, and to basically, further, whether it's more, perform more merits or, further cultivate their virtues, okay? So that's, it's a process. And the bodhisattva, you can, one way they say it is, bodhisattva has kind of first put aside the becoming a Buddha to first come, to try to save other people first, before they become a Buddha. But, whether, how they become a Buddha, it's, you can say that, a bodhisattva is like a Buddha, because they're pretty much have the same capabilities, Yeah, but they're still there to help all sentient beings, right?
Sentient being means human being and animal.
Yeah, even animals or other living beings, Yeah.
Human and animals.
Or the beings in the spirit, the celestials, right. Yeah.
So they have chances to attain as a Buddha status.
You're talking about the bodhisattva?
Yeah.
Yeah. One day they'll become, attain that level of Buddha, right?
这个观音 Buddha, right? 观音 the lady Buddha, right? Originally she
The
was
bodhisattva.
Bodhisattva. Then many years later she became Buddha, right? Her name is Nanhai Fu Po, right? Different name, different title.
There is a distinction, between a Buddha and a Bodhisattva from maybe our perspective. But the highest, if you want to get technical, in the Huayan Jing Avatamsaka Sutra, or more precisely, is it the 26th, chapter 26, which is the the Dasabhumika Sutra. It's called the Dasabhumika Sutra. It talks about 52 levels or 53 levels, one or the other. It's either 52 or 53. It doesn't matter. Okay. But the point of Bodhisattva is like it's you can say it's like an intermediate between a human, a sentient being, and a Buddha. Buddhahood is really, you can say, the highest level, right? The Anuttara Samya Sambodhi. Okay. It's that oneness that, you know, they transcend samsara. They are, it's like, it's almost like a god, okay? Like God, but I don't want to get there. I don't want to get there. But then there is an intermediate stages, we call it the Bodhisattva, okay? But what Bodhisattva just means is that it doesn't mean that they are not enlightened. They are. So they don't need to come back. They don't need to reincarnate in the samsara, okay? But the difference is that they willingly choose or decide, make a choice to say, even though they are enlightened, they can be like the Buddha, but they made a choice, a conscious choice, we call it conscious choice, to say, no, they still want to come back and reincarnate amongst sentient beings, among humans in this case, okay? So that they want to help others to also achieve, to become Buddhas, okay? So think about it. There are how many billions of humans, right? Or at least in this cycle, there are 7.2 billion humans and growing, right? Not just humans. What about how many animals? My God, how many birds? How many mammals? How many fish? How many insects? Uncountable. So what happens is, because of that fact, that reality, and that these quote-unquote bodhisattvas made these vows to help all these countless sentient beings to become Buddhas. So that's why they have bodhisattvas. We call them the title of bodhisattva. You get it? Okay? But there are different levels if you want to get technical, but that's, it doesn't matter, right? It's not matter. If you're a bodhisattva, you are already enlightened, okay? It just, all right? It just, at what stage? I mean, so like, Guanyin, she's already, she was a bodhisattva for many, long time that we know of, okay? That's because they still choose to, they made a vow, that the four great vows, which we don't get into, to save still sentient beings. In other words, some, Siddhigarbha Bodhisattva, Dizang, okay, well, it's Dizang, but Siddhigarbha, that's another Bodhisattva. Yeah, it's meant that will lead you to the next talk. Future, we talk, okay. He made a vow. What vow is this? Look. What? If all the suffering souls or spirits in the underworld are still present, then he's not a Buddha. so imagine how long is he going to be? But actually, he's already a Buddha. I mean, see, so, and that's because that's sincerity, that vows and sincerity. Okay. And so it's just a title, Bodhisattva Buddha, okay? But actually, okay, so it's very important, all right? It's just that Bodhisattva, we call them Bodhisattvas because they still have that, you can say, what? Unfulfilled mission, all right? To what? Help deliver all those sentient beings, be it humans, animals, suffering souls and underworld or celestial beings to become Buddhas. So you can say it's like endless mission. So that's why there's Bodhisattva. Because think about it, if there are no sentient beings, no animals, or no suffering souls, and no celestial beings, why is there need for Bodhisattva? There's no need, because there's none. Nobody says we're all enlightened. Then that's different. You get it? Right? So that's the reason of Bodhisattvas. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions?
No. Okay. So, all right. So, thank you. If I said anything wrong, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness, and you're forgiven. All right. Thank you.